Powerful teaching on loving your enemies. Matthew 5:44. Some words of Jesus comfort us immediately. They speak peace to our hearts. Other words challenge us. They call us higher, further than we ever imagined we could go. And then there are words that feel almost impossible. Words that stop us in our tracks and make us wonder if we can truly live them out. Matthew 5:44 is one of those. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. These are not soft words. They are sharp, demanding words. And yet, they are also beautiful words because they reveal the heart of God Himself. When we hear the word enemy, we may think of soldiers on a battlefield or conflicts in faraway lands. But for most of us, enemies are closer than that. Your enemy might be a coworker who undermines you, a neighbor who resents you, a friend who betrayed your trust, or even a family member whose words cut you deeply. These are the faces that come to mind when we think about wounds we still carry. And Jesus does not say, avoid them. He does not say, tolerate them. He does not even say, revenge will be sweet one day. He says something far more radical. Love them. Pray for them. The word Jesus uses for love here is agape, not a passing fondness or natural affection, but the selfless, sacrificial love of God. A love that does not depend on what the other person deserves. A love that seeks their good even when they seek your harm. And to that he adds, pray for those who persecute you. To pray for someone is to bring them before God's throne, to ask for His mercy, His blessing, His work in their life. It is almost impossible to remain bitter towards someone you regularly place in God's hands. Prayer does not only change them, it begins to change us. Scripture gives us examples of what this looks like. Think of Joseph in Genesis. His own brothers stripped him of his robe, threw him into a pit, and sold him into slavery. He was carried away to Egypt, where he was falsely accused and left to rot in prison. For years he suffered because of their cruelty. Then came the famine. By God's providence, Joseph had risen to power in Egypt. His brothers came to him begging for food, not knowing who he was. In that moment, Joseph held their lives in his hands. He could have punished them. He could have let them starve. But Joseph chose another way. He wept. He forgave. He told them in Genesis 50:20, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." He loved those who had been his enemies. He saw God's hand even in their betrayal. Think also of David and King Saul. Saul's jealousy turned to rage, and for years he hunted David like an animal. Twice David found himself in a position where he could have killed Saul. Once in a cave, when Saul was alone and vulnerable. Once in Saul's own camp while he slept. David's men urged him, "This is your chance." But David refused. He said in 1 Samuel 24:12, "May the Lord judge between you and me, and may the Lord avenge the wrongs you have done to me, but my hand will not touch you." David trusted God to handle justice. He would not take vengeance into his own hands. He loved his enemy by sparing his life. Then we come to Stephen in Acts 7, the first Christian martyr. Dragged outside the city, surrounded by an angry crowd, he was stoned for his testimony about Christ. And what did he do? Acts 7:60 says, "He fell on his knees and cried out, 'Lord, do not hold this sin against them.' When he had said this, he fell asleep. As stones rained down on him, his last words were not curses, but prayer. He asked God to forgive his killers. And among those present that day was a man named Saul, who would one day become Paul, apostle of Christ. Stephen's prayer planted a seed of grace that bore fruit in one of the greatest missionaries of the church. And above all, we look to Jesus himself. On the cross, beaten, mocked, bleeding, he prayed, "Father, forgive them. They do not know what they are doing." Luke 23:34. The Son of God loved his enemies to the very end. He died not only for his friends, but for those who rejected him, mocked him, and nailed him to the tree. Romans 5:10 reminds us, while we were God's enemies, we were reconciled to him through the death of his Son. We are the proof of this command. God loved us when we were his enemies. These examples are powerful, but they are not easy. They confront our natural instincts. When someone wrongs us, everything in us wants to fight back, to repay insult for insult, to answer betrayal with bitterness, to demand that they feel what we felt. That is natural love. To love those who love us and to hate those who hate us. But Jesus calls us higher. In Matthew 5:46 and 47, he says, "If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even the tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others?" In other words, loving friends is ordinary. Loving enemies is extraordinary. Greeting those who like us is natural. Greeting those who despise us is supernatural. This is the love of the kingdom. And this command matters deeply in our world today. Think of the workplace where gossip spreads and reputations are ruined. Every instinct says to fight back, to return insult with insult. But what if instead we prayed for the one who slandered us? Think of families divided by years of conflict. The temptation is to hold on to resentment. But what if instead we chose forgiveness, releasing the weight of bitterness to God? Think of the hostility online, where anger rises quick and words cut deep. What if Christians responded not with venom, but with grace? Not with hatred, but with prayer. The world would take notice because this kind of love is not from us. It is from God. So how do we love our enemies? How do we live this command? Jesus gives us the first step, prayer. Pray for those who persecute you. Prayer changes the battlefield. When you bring someone before God, you surrender your right to revenge. You acknowledge that justice belongs to Him, not to you. And you open the door for His Spirit to soften your heart. Romans 12:19 through 21 gives us the pattern. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. If your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. This is not weakness. It is strength under control. It is not pretending that wrong never happened. It is trusting God to be the judge, while we choose to walk in mercy. 1 Peter 2:23 says of Jesus, "When they hurled their insults at him, he did not retaliate. When he suffered, he made no threats. Instead, he entrusted himself to him who judges justly." That is our example, to entrust ourselves, our hurts, and even our enemies to the righteous judge. And here's the eternal perspective. Jesus says in Matthew 5:45 that when we love our enemies, we show that we are children of our Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. God's love is generous. It falls on all. And when we love our enemies, we mirror his heart. One day, every act of enemy love will shine in eternity. Every prayer whispered for a persecutor, every act of kindness given to an enemy, every tear shed for someone who never deserved it, all of it will be gathered into the eternal story of God's kingdom. Revelation 7 gives us the vision, a great multitude from every nation, tribe, people, and language standing before the throne. Among them will be people who once opposed Christ, but who were won by the love and prayers of his people. And Revelation 21:4 gives us the hope. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain. Every wound will be healed. Every act of forgiveness will be remembered. Every moment of mercy will be redeemed. So hear again the words of Jesus. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. When you are betrayed, love. When you are insulted, love. When you are wounded, love. Not because it is easy, but because it is the way of Christ. Not because they deserve it, but because this is the love God has shown to us. This is the love that transforms enemies into brothers and sisters. This is the love that reflects the heart of God. This is the love of the kingdom. If this message stirred you, don't let it stop here. Think of that person in your life who has wounded you, opposed you, or betrayed you, and begin to pray for them. Not because they deserve it, but because Christ first loved us when we were his enemies. Subscribe and walk with us as we keep exploring what it means to live the radical love of Jesus. Because when you love your enemies, you reflect the heart of God, and that kind of love echoes into eternity.